welcome back to my channel. It's Cassie here. I am a Canadian expat currently living in Australia. I basically am just trying to navigate my way through adult life. I share my experiences, my interests, and the videos I create are based on what it's like living in Australia, beauty, lifestyle, and so much more. Today's video, we're going to actually be talking about relationships. And not just any kind of relationships, but long distance relationships. So a little background about my situation and how I was in a long distance relationship. Before COVID, I had actually lived in Australia. I moved here, but I was only able to stay for 4 months, and then COVID happened. So I ended up going back home to Canada, but my partner stayed here because he had to finish his studies. And so thus began our long distance relationship, and we had been doing long distance for almost 2 years, something like that. And during that time, I couldn't see him at all because he couldn't even leave Australia due to the very tight restrictions that they had, and because he was on a visa, if he had left, they wouldn't let him back in. So that's why we didn't get to see each other for a long time, and it was definitely a difficult period, the added on stress of being COVID times, right? Like, everyone's already stressed to begin with. Just to preface this, what I'm suggesting is not gonna work for everyone. My relationship is gonna be different from yours, so feel free to tweak this or change it up. But the number one most important thing, and the first thing you need to have, is trust in your relationship. So I have been with my boyfriend for 8 years, so we have had a lot of time to build that trust, to like get to know each other really well, and to basically put our trust in each other that we're in it for the long run and we're not going to be messing around even though we're going to be so far away from each other. So I will say, if you are in a relatively new relationship, I would say doing long distance definitely will be harder, just because you haven't had enough time to really, you know, suss out the other person and really build that bond and that trust, which takes time. I'm not saying it's not doable, but I'm just saying that it's definitely going to be a little bit harder to gauge if that person really is going to be in it for real. And you won't know until you try it out to see if you can manage yourself as well too. So trust is super important. If you don't have trust in your relationship and you are constantly either insecure in yourself or insecure about what your partner is doing, who they're talking to, what friends they're making, all that stuff, like constantly all this yammering and blabbing is happening in your head when they're just, I don't know, a little bit far away from you, then to do a long distance relationship that far away is definitely going to be really difficult. If you don't have a basis of trust in your relationship, then I'm already gonna tell you right now that it might not work. Next, number 2, I think it's really important to build the right mindset. So when I left Australia, I didn't really think of all that distance between us as, oh, like the other half of my heart is being torn away from my body and I cannot live without them, and I feel like I can't even breathe because I need to be with them 24/7. Like, I'm in so much pain. I didn't really think of it as ripping my heart in half, but rather just thinking of it as, okay, now we have some time and distance between us. Now I have all this time in the world to really think about, what do I want to do, you know, as Cassie, as my own individual person. Now I can be so selfish with my time. I could be so selfish with everything, because all I have to really think about is, what do I want to do, and no one else. And I think that's really powerful, because a lot of the times when people get into relationships in general, you kind of become so intertwined with that person. And I see this happening a lot, especially with women, is that you kind of start to lose yourself in your man, as in, you know, you stop hanging out with your girlfriends because you're always hanging out with your boyfriend or your boyfriend's friends, or, you know, you're not really doing any of your own hobbies. You're just picking up what he likes to do and what his hobbies are. And that's honestly such a slippery slope, because before you know it, you're gonna get so comfortable with just always being with him that you will not have your own personal identity. And once he is away from you, you just feel lost and empty. It's not a good thing to have, just in terms of like your mental health. Now that you have all this free time, now you have an endless possibility of things you can do with your Saturdays and your Sundays. You know, instead of going over to his house and spending the night over at his house and waking up in the morning with him, like now you have all this free time to really focus on things you've always wanted to try, you know, hobbies that maybe you've looked at and you're like, oh, that seems kind of interesting, but you never had time to do it because you were just so busy going out on dates. So now is the time to really focus on enjoying the thought of knowing you can do whatever you want and try whatever you want and not be rushed for time. Write down a list of things you've always wanted to try or things you've always wanted to learn, but you had just always kept putting it off. For me personally, I was like, okay, great, now I have all my weekends to work on my YouTube channel because I really wanted to grow this channel, but it takes time to film, it takes time to edit, it takes time to like create content, right? But then now that my boyfriend was so far away from me, I had all the time in the world to work on my YouTube channel. So the third thing you should do is to definitely set up weekly calls with your significant other. Obviously everyone has their own busy schedules, and if there is a time difference as well between you guys, you just need to find the perfect time that works for the both of you to chat and, you know, catch up on what's been going on in your life. I know some long distance relationships where they FaceTime each other all the time, like 24/7, and that's great. Personally, I don't like that because if I'm FaceTiming him, I feel like I can't really fully concentrate on other things I'm doing. So I personally would schedule it either on a Friday night or a Saturday night. Everyone's schedule is going to be a little bit different, but make sure you just find a time that works for both of you, and every week that will be your day to video call them and to catch up with them and tell them about your week. Okay, number 4. I think just because you're in a long distance relationship, that doesn't mean you have to stop going on dates. And what I personally did was I would have virtual dates. So I would make it kind of like a fun event where I say, okay, let's both kind of dress kind of nice. We can get takeout or cook a meal. It depends on what you want to do. And then we can show up, do a FaceTime or Zoom call and be dressed all nicely so we feel like we're going out on a date, even though we're not actually going anywhere, but at least it feels like it's some sort of an event to look forward to, and that just makes it a little bit more special. During these virtual dates, you can do a bunch of things. Of course, eating is one of them. Another one I love to do is watching a movie together virtually. And I also like to play games on our phones where we can actually play against each other. So I'll leave some games in the description box below of the ones I've personally used to play with him, and he's super competitive, so he really loves playing those kind of games where he can be challenged and possibly beat me, because clearly I'm not that good at games, but it's just a really fun way to change it up. And the next thing I'm actually gonna recommend is to spice it up. So when you're playing these games, you can make it even more fun, I guess, by making it like a strip game type situations. If you lose, then you're gonna have to take off like one article of clothing or something. I usually start like wearing like a shit ton of stuff so that I could really take my time with it, but I think that's like a super fun way to just, you know, get them a little bit excited but also like play a game, and it's just fun for the both of you guys. In terms of like the more raunchy subject of, you know, how that kind of stuff works virtually, I would say it's different for everyone. Not everyone will be comfortable with it. I don't love doing it. I've tried it, but I don't. It's just weird. It's just weird when it's on a camera and you can't physically feel them. So you could definitely try that out, but it's okay if you're not super into it. I prefer to like send pictures or stuff like that, but I never send it on WhatsApp, okay? Never ever send them like the real copy that they can keep, unless you for sure trust this person so much, because I've just heard horror stories of people sending nudes and then the other person keeping it or spreading it, and I don't know what the heck they might do with it. I've been in this relationship for so long, so I would be okay if he kept some things here and there, but if you're in a really new relationship, just be really careful about that, because you don't want it to be potentially used against you. That is how I would say to spice it up. Try it out. It's gonna be awkward in the beginning. You're gonna feel super like naked. I feel like it's also especially hard as a girl, because as a girl it's almost like you're always, you have to be the one like kind of performing. Like guys don't really do shit, they just like look at the camera, which I don't think is fair. I think the guys should definitely do stuff too, but you know, if you're not comfortable with it after trying it out, don't force it. Just send cute videos or cute pictures instead. I think that still gets the job done. And if they get upset over it because they're not getting enough, then they're not the right one, because you shouldn't ever be pushed to doing something you're not comfortable with. Oh, I also wanted to mention, it's also super fun to do relationship Q&A. So this is another way to spice things up. There are a lot of fun relationship games online where it's kind of like a truth or dare kind of thing, and you can ask each other these like fun relationship questions, and it just helps you get to know the person even more and like really talk about the stuff that you go like, ooh, like that would kind of give you butterflies and be interested to hear what their answers are. So that is also a really fun game to play. Alright, and last is number 6. Number 6 is definitely to plan a trip. Have something in your schedule so you have something to look forward to. It's not just gonna be a long distance relationship forever and ever and ever. You will get to see them. Maybe it's not every single week, but hey, maybe it's every 4 months or every 6 months. At least have something planned so that you have something to look forward to and it doesn't just feel like an endless cycle of nothingness. Okay, so just giving you guys some of my final thoughts. You know, long distance relationships totally are doable and a ton of people are doing it nowadays. I think that as long as 2 people are both, you know, willing to put in the work, they're both in it, you have like a solid foundation of trust, and you just keep your communication open, then it will all work out. It's not going to be easy all the time, but it is very rewarding when you finally get to see them. You get that, you know, excitement of butterflies again. It's almost like you're just starting to date again. Every time you're away for a long time and then you see each other together, you see each other again, it's just so exciting, and reuniting is always such a fun part. So I hope all these tips help you guys out. Let me know if you have any questions below and I will do my best to answer your questions. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.